for what just happened. And we got two amazing chicks, only two. That's how good they are. Andrea Jones-Rooy is back, scientist, stand-up comedian. She has a PhD. She's a circus performer, and she has a podcast, Behind the Data. Dr. Andrea Jones-Rooy. Nice to see you, doctor.
Hello, Sir Esquire, Dean
That's
Esquire,
right.
Dean Obeidallah.
And Hal Sparks has an honorary doctorate. We've just bestowed upon him.
That's right.
Comedian, activist, seen him on everything from the Emmy Award-winning show Talk Soup to acting in various things. His band is Nerd Halen. You see him all the time with Stephanie Miller and touring with Stephanie Miller. And he's got infotainmentwars.com, right? Is that right? And he's here now. And I just want to point out the top for everyone. We are recording this in the afternoon. So if we learn more about the shooting of Charlie Kirk, when you hear this, it's not like we're uninformed because we're the most informed people. We are all about data.
So informed.
So
Yes.
Things evolve. Just so I want to put that out there.
Yeah. So we're drinking from the fire hose of news. So don't complain if we're a little bit damp.
That's right. We're like the cable. I said, you mean cable. Hal was saying we're like cable news. Like this just in. Everything I just said was wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry. Back to you. Like MySpace, and we're gonna call this segment called irresponsible speculation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with Hal, Dean, and Andrea. So
what just happened, what's happening, and oh my God, what
just happened?
Did that happen?
Yeah, and just holy shit, period.
Yeah. What just happened, and can we make it worse over the next hour? That's so
That's
it's been a bad weekend. Andrea, so we'll just start with the open-ended thing, just about, it was a shooting of Charlie Kirk. He was murdered on camera. It was, forget Charlie Kirk as a person, it was horrible to watch. Like, I didn't know when someone posted the video of the blood coming out that we were going to see that. It was so jarring. It has disturbed me for a couple of days.
Yeah.
But so it was an assassination of the worst type. And we do have political violence in this country. We don't have to get into it right now. We'll break it down more. But what is your sense and your concern about political violence going forward?
It's impossibly at an all-time high, I have to say. I mean, I was thinking it's so intense that it's all happening right around the anniversary of 9/11 as well, because that was one of my first memories of like wild political violence. It's certainly different type in every single way, but I remember being so frightened then, and I feel so frightened now. Maybe more so, maybe there's a recency bias, but the minute I heard the news, and I too started seeing clips circulate, what is this? What was this event? I just had this horrible sinking feeling that this is different from previous acts of political violence. In many ways, it's the same, of course. There was a horrible attack in Minnesota not long ago, and many other instances of political violence. But this one to me felt like, for whatever reason, and we can talk about those reasons, a real turning point or a change in the tide around how we think about political violence in this country. The speed, honestly, the thing that maybe concerned me the most was how quickly Trump came out and other members of the White House came out and said, obviously this is the fault of the radical left, X, Y, and Z, and it's just the leadership. We didn't know, and we don't know, and there's information coming out right now where we know a little bit more about what happened. But I think the instant blaming and the instant complete solidification of further divisiveness between the left and the right is perhaps the part that frightens me most.
And Hal, what about you, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I saw it immediately as well. The video of him getting shot is horrifying, and it just fills you with like instant sorrow. Anybody who has been face to face with someone in the last moments of their life. I've done CPR 4 times in my life. I've pulled people out of rivers when they've been drowning and they weren't conscious at the time. And there's this window between maybe they'll make it and maybe they won't, and that moment relies on you. And every EMT, every police officer, every soldier in a unit who's seen fire has been in that moment, and they know it drags you down to reality in a way that this like kind of online looking at Twitter as a window to your house does not do. And so there you can see, I think the shift came not so much in that like they're taking political violence more seriously, because they certainly aren't going, in retrospect, I shouldn't have said what I said about Paul Pelosi. Retrospectively, I should have said what I said about the Democratic lawmakers, or made up all this stuff about who victimized them or turned it into a conspiracy theory when we're all in on this. I'll see an awakening amongst them when they kind of are able to balance that it shouldn't happen to anyone. And I'm very proud of the fact that the vast majority of at least the above the line people who speak for Democrats and liberals and quote unquote the left are really coming out and decrying this violence head on with the clearance of it doesn't matter who you are or what you believe. No one should be shot for what they say. And when you do that, in many ways, you're not only morally wrong, but you're counterproductive to whatever movement you think because it makes them dig in. It will. Donald Trump is one of the kind of people who will always look for an opening,
Yeah.
like an infection. He will look for cuts that he can crawl into. And in this particular case, he was looking for the Kilmar Obrego Garcia moments where he could, use that as a wedge issue so that he could send the National Guard into cities. He's looking for, crime when it pops off. This is another situation where they will justify the kind of stuff where they were crawling up the rectums of, liberal and peace activist groups in the 60s and the early 70s because of bombings by, the Weather Underground and stuff like that. They look for that as their cue point because they know if they keep ratcheting, it will pop. And then they will just jump in there and infect the whole thing. And so you have to be aware of that, even if people are like lost in their emotions and stuff. If they do allegedly care about the things that they care about, you can't act like this and you can't justify it. I gotta tell you, the whole like free Luigi garbage that was thrown all around and the justifications for a man walking up and shooting another man in the back, walking into a building because of a gripe with a corporation or what control you think he has over the board of directors or the shareholders or any of this big mucky thing that you think you can cure. There's a very dangerous thing when people think it could all be fixed with just a little more violence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like there's
it's
just one
dangerous.
more death away from putting a
That's
stop to everything. It's not how it works.
And it never works that way.
No.
Never.
I agree. And with where this is going to go next is really the thing on everyone's mind. Donald Trump was on Fox News this morning, and the host actually was trying to be responsible and said there is extremism on the left and the right. And Donald Trump said, no, on the right, radicals on the right want to stop crime. Radicals on the left are horrible and vicious. And I'm like, in what world does the president of the United States say those language at a time when we're in a heated situation that actually puts fuel on the fire again this morning? And all I can think is what a despicable, vile human being this guy is. Like, it's indefensible for that kind of things. He could have done the right thing. Even the host was trying to set him up to do the right thing. Really?
Could he though? Could he though?
No,
I
he
mean, talking
can't.
about
He's
blood
not
from a
good.
stone.
Someone could.
No, he's physically able to. Mentally,
I
no.
know.
Right? The words can come out of his
He
mouth.
used to be.
Right.
I'm willing to make this point that he used to be able to maybe kind of fathom, at least for his own ego's sake, cleaning up in a situation like this and appearing to be stronger, better, more secure, fearless, whatever. Like, because we all know he wants to be George W. Bush standing on rubble saying these people will all hear us very soon.
Yep.
That's what he wants. And he very well may have been capable of that, I don't know, 10 years ago. But now his brain is tapioca. His face is melting like a Salvador Dali painting. And he's got a catheter in, a limpy leg. He has no idea what he's talking about. He's got bruises on both hands. They all think he's vaccine, whatever. He should be on the Vera list. But I'm at one point, I think there are elements of this where the first time he was in office, it didn't age him at all because he's a sociopath and doesn't care. But right now, both the lawsuits against him and the fact that he's still going to have to pay E. Jean Carroll and everybody knows he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein and all that stuff coming out, that scares him.
Yeah.
That frightens him. And that's making him age precipitously. And everyone around him knows it. So I don't know that he could put the words together to be patient and reasonable and recognize the weight of his office anymore. Not that he was ever morally able to do it or even, I guess, as an adult able to master that skill, like still kind of a toddler. But now I think it's borderline biological. Listen to him talk. He's throwing words together and it's a mess.
Very much. And Andrew, yesterday I had on Doug Jones, former U.S. Senator, former U.S. Attorney in Alabama. And we had him, he comes on periodically, but also he prosecuted political violence. He prosecuted 16th Street Baptist bombing, although it happened in the 60s, he did it in the 90s and all that. And he's like a middle of the road guy. He's not a firebrand. And he said yesterday, before we even know who the killer was, he said he's concerned about Trump. He goes, he wants to do, he goes, they want chaos. They want to do something drastic.
Mm-hmm.
He said they want to do something to their political opponents, prosecute, investigate, shut them down, and do whatever. That's what I worry about. And again, that's not me saying that. Like Dean, I'd say that every day. That's Doug Jones. He's really like a middle of the road Democrat who's not a firebrand. He's the Joe Biden world. And he's saying point blank, this guy is going to go right to the fascist playbook and use this.
I'm inclined to think that he's correct. And I think Hal is spot on in the imagery that, you know, Trump wants to be the person standing on rubble and saying that we are going to kill our enemies and so on. And I think early on, Trump did try to mess with international relations, and he's a wartime president, and but he realized he can't control Israel and Gaza and Russia and Ukraine. And so he's turned his focus back on the United States, and whether it's the Department of War or whether it's, you know, deploying National Guard in different cities, like he wants to sow chaos. Absolutely. He wants to sow hatred, and he wants to sow fear. And literally before there was any news about who did it and what the motivation was, we had no idea if the shooter was far right, far left, international, something else, better. There could have been a million reasons. He just came out and in full straight face to the entire country said, this is whose fault it is. And that is the act of a coward. That is the act of a conspiratorial person. As Hal said, it's someone who's in a corner, and it's someone who absolutely wants to start a war in this country and is in no way interested in serving anything other than, I'm getting worked up as I say, like he's trying to save his own ass right now.
We're in a
He
dangerous
doesn't
place.
care if he takes the entire country down with him. He's on the Titanic, and he's saying the enemy is the iceberg, and we're all just going to have to die because
he doesn't have and he doesn't have the kind of ability to have even a thought of like two moves ahead in a cheap chess game. Like,
what could this mean for other people?
Right. Or even himself long term. This is the great example, I think, is when the job numbers came out. What did he distract away from the jobs numbers with? Epstein. He posted a giant thing about like he's like anything to get the attention off this. What'll they do? I'll say this because they keep paying attention to this. That's how like madness of King George, the situation we're in is, and everybody around him knows it. I don't care what anybody's saying. Like everything that they said about Joe Biden is a projection. Prostate cancer. Most men die with prostate cancer in them. Like it was never going to affect him, even if he ran another term. Was he slowed down by the travel and 7 trips in 2 weeks? Yeah, anybody would be. Trump's disappeared for days on end, getting God knows what kind of treatments. Everything is a projection. So the people around him know it. Vance knows it. Peter Thiel knows it. They're going to roll him around in an electric wheelchair with 2 lights on it, red for no and green for yes, like he's Admiral Pike, and go, he said, make America great again, however you see fit. Like that's going to be the second half of this presidency.
If they're going to hold up like something they want him to sign and a cheeseburger and a Diet Coke in the other hand and go,
that's right.
Yes. Here you go. Sign
there it is. Sign it. Sign it.
Oh,
sign it.
Good. Yeah. You made America great again. Cheeseburger. Very good. I will say that Trump, you guys are both touching on a little bit here. The fascist playbook, the authoritarian playbook is you attack a subset that's truly a minority of the population. What Hitler did, obviously with the Jews, but also the communists, they were a small subset of the overall population. Mussolini with the communists, same thing. In America, Democrats and people who are non-aligned, like anyone standing up to them, we're the majority. Like this doesn't make sense. Like you're not playing this well either. The 58% of Americans don't approve of him, and we're the enemy to the guy who's got a 40% approval rating. And you're like, I don't think you get it. I'm not saying it's going to be a war, but it's not even. So to your point, Hal, it's not. There's not chess. It's not checkers. It's not anything. It's a blah.
No.
Whatever. Blah. That's it.
Yeah.
I feel good.
It's a glitter bomb. Every time. They're trying to set a bag of shit on fire on everybody's doorstep, knock and run away. That's the level of strategic thinking we're talking about. I like to remind everybody that not only did the Germans pick on a group that everybody had already vilified in terms of the Jews, they also gave them a practical solution. We got to get rid of the mentally challenged and disabled and the gays and anybody who isn't going to improve the population either genetically or by volume. They got to go. And there's a huge string of that in what I would call the crust. I used to think there was like far left and far right, and there's so much horseshoe theory now that I feel like a pepperoni arguing who's the pizza and who's the crust. Like we're all trying to talk about. There's a difference between a political movement and a social movement. Social movement is, do we get along based on your immutable characteristics? legally or illegally, it doesn't matter. The government can't make me not hate you. That's
Right.
something we have to handle socially. It takes a lot of work. It's murky, it's gray, and it takes a long time. And every time you try to legally do it, there's always backlash. Look at gay marriage right now, teetering on the brink, and those kind of things. It's necessary to provide legal protections for people, but when it's got a cruent like social attachment to it, that's when you get all this blowback and culture war stuff between the two. I think our responsibility has to be, especially a fundamental focus on the right of every human being to have human dignity within our borders and without our borders to the extent the United States interacts with them. That should be our primary focus as Democrats, especially, and tell the crust they're not the friggin' pizza because they think they
I
are.
liked it. And
This is
I'm having
these
pizza for
analogies.
lunch.
I'm like, I'm gonna go eat pizza and look at
That's it.
Salvador Dali paintings
That's
after this.
it.
And I
I'm
wonder
trying.
I mean,
It's a form of hypnotism I've been practicing lately,
it's
and it works
working
Very
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 good.
well.
I
yeah,
ordered a
this
pepperoni
episode
pizza.
brought to you by, I guess I won't say brand names. We'll all get lawsuits coming up. But Dean,
By
I mean,
Chicago.
right? I mean, they are vilifying subgroups within the Democratic
do it
Party,
right,
and
but he's
separate from the
expanded
Democratic
it
Party.
out.
But you're right.
Like
He's
he
also
just
saying it's
made-
everyone.
If he look, I'm not in any way saying it's the right thing. I'm just saying historically that's what people
Yeah.
have done. That's effective. When you do broad repression, when you do, I had an expert on tyranny on this guy, Marcel Dersis, wrote a book about tyrants. And in the book, they made a great point that targeted repression of small subsets is what the autocrats do. When you get the broad repression, like using the military in the streets to put people down, that's when the regime is at their weakest because things have gotten that bad
That's right.
that they need the military to put you down. If they
That's
can
right.
scare everyone to silence or make them like you, then that's
Right.
Yeah.
either way. When you get the military, like he's sending, we were seeing the news a short time ago. I'm not sure if it's going to happen because he just said as an aside, I might be sending the military to Memphis next. He's going to invade Tennessee next because he's
Go
a red
ahead.
state
Yeah.
governor. But I don't know if he's going to because he says anything. To Hal's point, he's mentally,
Yeah.
there are times he's legally
just
not
heard
competent
that.
during the day. Right, he's
He
legally
just
not
heard that.
competent.
A
Well, I'm
reporter,
also
just so you know, a reporter told him, like, why are you on and on about, LA and New York and Chicago and that kind of stuff when the per capita crime rate is much higher in big cities in red states overall? And
Yeah.
and he was like, no, they're not. He was like, yeah, go check it out. Memphis, I think it was like St. Louis, of course, Bakersfield,
Birmingham,
famously, McCarthy's district has the highest murder rate per capita in California. And and so like if it's a statistical anomaly that you're trying to fix, it's not normal, it's worse, it's an emergency, and you're going to use emergency powers, then you have to argue that you only got to go to the places where it's an emergency, where it's statistically way out of line with the population of a space. In Chicago or New York or LA with 7 to 10 million people in the outlying area, the idea that you have 500 shootings over the course of a year, especially in a country with 400 million guns, is almost a miracle that there are only that many.
Right.
I mean, something tells me the administration is not living and breathing by statistics, but I totally agree with you. And it, not to go to what Charlie Kirk was literally just saying before he was killed, but the question about how many, mass shootings or whatever are coming from trans people, and he said too many. Well, it's like, sure, if the number is greater than 0, I think there are too many shootings of any kind. Fine. But that's just not a statistical assessment of what's going on and what the risk factors are, even for that.
And I'm chatting with
So-
Andrea Jones-Rooy and Hal Sparks. Quick thing though, I want to get back to Charlie Kirk for a second because I'm
Yeah.
watching the
Yeah.
media sanitize him like they're doing him a favor. This guy he was proud of his views that
Yeah.
we view, that we collectively view as anti-Muslim,
Abhorrent.
anti-LGBT, anti-Jewish, anti-Black. To him and the right, they're not. So by
Right.
sanitizing him as like some just conservative activist, he was way out, and they don't want to print his stuff like it's disrespectful. He would want you to print his bullshit.
They're his
He would
quotes.
love to evangelicalize after his death. He wants those views. And I don't, for the life of me, don't get it. Why media, they're sitting in a room going, this is really bad stuff. He said, like now they're just noticing.
Right.
But now, so they don't want to print it because it seems like, the left-wing media printed his actual words to demonize him. No, these were his words.
Yeah. These
Well,
aren't our
why
descriptions
not?
of what he was saying.
Right. Shouldn't they be printing
100%.
it?
No, well, I'll tell you exactly why they aren't. Because there is a tendency in a moment after someone has had their neck blown open in front of 3,000 college students when you correctly quote them about something they said in relation to what might have been the motive of the person doing it, and it is a thought that is not particularly popular, it can be taken by a large swath of the population, both pro and con, that he had it coming. And so
Mm.
the news has a responsibility to stand back. We can talk like this and we can talk openly about this. I have no problem with the legacy media and cable news taking a more tepid and more direct approach to this, because they should and they have to. This is a very serious circumstance. There will be plenty of time to remind everybody that Herman Cain didn't believe COVID was a thing, and
Right.
didn't get
Right.
vaccinated and showed up unmasked at a Trump rally, right? It's still true. He's
Right.
dead, and it's still true these many years later. And the irony of it, a comedy being tragedy plus time, there's an element of irony also falls into that gap, that you can be, poetically ironic about a historical moment and point out how wrong thinking led to someone's untimely demise, or to their, the
Mhm.
irony of him being so pro gun and saying willing to make sacrifices seemingly as long as they were other people.
Right. Right.
Right. There will be time for that. And I don't mind them tapping the brakes on it. And especially when when copycats are a problem, when people are like getting riled up and like, this is the time. That's always been the fear in the United States. And it seemed to be not a fear around Jan 6. And there were people being arrested by the FBI all the time after Jan 6 who were planning to attack state capitals
Right.
and sheriff's offices and all kinds of stuff as revenge for the
Mhm.
people that were at Jan 6. Look at the guy who shot the FBI office in Cincinnati for
Yeah.
something that
Huge.
happened in Florida.
Right.
Like that's where their head is at, and I don't mind.
For
We
me,
can have a
right.
frank conversation,
No,
but
right.
awareness,
For me on
by
my
being aware of that.
show, after he was killed, I went through what he said to make the point that it's vile and despicable,
Yep.
but he should not be shot for it. Like
Agreed.
this
Yeah.
stuff is horrible.
Yep.
He said anti-Muslim stuff just 2 months ago about Zoran Mondami. Really, like that I shouldn't even be in the media. I mean, he didn't say about me, but like
Hmm.
we are a threat to society by being, and
Yep.
it's suicide. And I said that because there are people on the right who could view what we say as this vile and despicable the same way, but they shouldn't shoot us for it the same way we shouldn't shoot him. And that was my point. I don't want to sanitize. I want people to say, like, this is how bad he was. I think he's horrible. He should never die for that. We counter
Right.
it with
Right.
words.
Right.
And so that's why I made the point of saying,
Hmm.
I'm not going to, it wasn't about demonizing him. He was proud
Right.
of what he said. He would be
Right.
like, this
Hmm.
is what I said. I'm glad that you're telling people it still. And Hal, to the point about what you said, reminds me of the quote famous from Julius Caesar from the Shakespeare, where the evil that men do lives after them. That,
Hmm.
and I'm not saying it was evil what Charlie Kirk did, but the whatever bad in today's world, it's going to be on the internet forever. Like you're never escaping it. So you could have a moment of grace after
Yeah.
someone dies. It's true. You're right. In the bigger picture, you could take a step back and go, for corporate media, we're going to have a moment of grace for this person. It's
Right.
never going to escape the world who
Right.
they really were.
I
So
mean,
that's
it's
just
sort
the
of
point.
like a eulogy analogy. It's like we'll all go to the funeral and we'll say the nice things that we can say, and we'll say that our hearts are broken for his kids and his wife, and agree that you should be able to say horrible things as long as they're not actively causing harm, which some of them might have been. But either way, in this country, I don't want to live in a world where people get shot for their beliefs. And if anything, I would
Yeah.
have much preferred a world where he stays alive and I can engage, or others of us, Dean
Yes.
and Hal, can engage him in conversation, and we can, work it out,
Convince him
or talk it
otherwise.
through. Yeah.
Right.
But I think two things can be true. Someone can be an absolute can espouse absolutely horrible beliefs, and honestly, Dean, I think he would be proud of you for keeping his legacy alive.
That's
Reminding
my only
people his
fear
message.
of
It's
that
you're
place.
doing his work for him. And say it's a human who died, and I don't want to live in a world where that happens.
Absolutely. I
Hmm.
also learned a lot about, do you guys know much about guns? Because to me,
I'm learning more by the hour.
No, because like I only see things from movies. I've shot a gun in a
Hmm.
shooting range like 10 times in my life ever, right? So I know nothing. To me, I'm like shooting someone from 200 yards away who's sitting there, not hitting anyone else, thousands
Yeah.
of people. He's under a tent, and with one shot, there was
Yeah.
no extra shot, and you kill the guy. I'm like, this has got to be special forces. This
Same.
has got to be like,
Yes.
and it's like a 22-year-old kid who just knew how to use guns. I'm like,
Well,
that's normal. Like I
I
don't.
spoke to a
Yes.
friend of mine in Texas who's a gun owner, and he was like, I have that gun. It's actually not that hard. He was like, it's not
No.
easy, but it's not that hard. And because I was like, he's ex-military. There's no way.
That's right.
But I just don't know
Putin put him
anything.
here. I'm like,
Mm-mm.
Putin dropped him here by a helicopter and picked him up. No.
Yeah. So I grew up in Kentucky.
Oh,
I'm a lifetime member of the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association. I have a Herschel House flintlock. My dad does too. My dad can split a playing card
Wow.
from its side.
No.
On a
What?
on a 100-yard range with a muzzle ball, like with a muzzleloader, yeah. So
Oh
yeah,
my
sideways.
God.
So we've been shooting our whole lives. And if you can do that with a gun like that, handmade, there are so many guns and there's so many guns in this country and they're so easy to operate. They have taken almost all of the skill out
Mm.
of shooting over the years as best they can. And especially when it comes to hunting rifles. Hunting rifles in the name of being humane to the animal
Mm.
are more powerful and more accurate than they ever have been. And so, and I was in the JCs, the guns I was using, 22s or 30-06, those were the two, graduating guns. And they're not that difficult to operate. You
From
can use the
200
built.
yards? From
Yes,
200 yards?
they're accurate with built-in sights, with just iron sights, with just the pins and the single. Like you can put whatever your target is just above the ball of the center and you'll hit it.
I mean,
And that guy had a scope on it. Now it's super easy. Like people just don't understand. That's one of the problems with like why we need gun laws, why we need to register,
Wow.
how much ammo someone is gathering is indicative of what they are planning to do. No, and if you're a sport hunter, you don't care if the government knows you've got barrels of
right.
of 5.56 or or shotgun shells or any of that shit in your basement. You don't care because they know you're going to the range and you're going hunting and you have trips and your friends and blah blah blah. But when you're doing it on the down low, there should be a red flag on that. Why
Hmm.
is this person in this household all of a sudden buying a bunch of ammo, that kind of thing, and going to the range intensely for weeks on end out of the blue? And if they're not in the military, they're not going to join the police force, something's up. And that's,
Well,
and that's pretty much the case here. And it didn't even take anything. Like this
I
kid's been
didn't know.
shooting since he was a kid.
I didn't know. It's kind of remarkable.
I'm sort of impressed. Part of me is thinking, Dean, we should go to the shooting range. But now that Hal is raising red flags for going to shooting ranges, maybe that's not the move.
Oh
But I
yeah,
really am.
just don't pay with a pay with a credit card and go there 5 days in a row.
Right, right,
That'll be
right.
that's when you should get a
Like,
knock on your door, I think,
Okay.
really.
it's like,
Yeah,
why are
fine.
you
Bring
here
up
every
bring
day?
the
We
knock.
never saw you before. And
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
like,
I feel like
so,
it's just Dean and me, a bunch of lefties trying to understand how guns work. I
well, in
promise.
New York
Yeah.
City, to use a shooting range, just that we have one shooting range in Manhattan,
Do
not
we?
far
Hmm.
from me. And I actually was intrigued because I did, when I
Legal
made a
ones.
documentary,
You have one legal one near you. You have
well,
a
right,
bunch of
we,
mafia basements where there's
Yeah.
maybe.
a
We
sounds like
also have,
somebody's making a giant bowl of popcorn 3 days a week.
Yeah, yeah,
we
fair.
also
Right.
have the Bronx. So yes,
Yeah.
it's true. We have various shooters. But when I did this documentary, The Muslims Are Coming, we went to a shooting range and shot guns because you're in Georgia. You show the driver's license, they give you any gun. We shot guns. And you know what? It was fun. I mean, it was like a video game come to life. It was kind of fun. And I said, maybe I'll do it here. In New York City, it's not that. You have to go, I have to take a test and
Yeah.
get
Just
a
to use the
license
shooting
just to
range.
shoot
Wow.
in the shooting range.
Wow.
I'm
Hmm.
like, really?
So
I'm like,
much for
Yep.
like in the
freedom.
20s. It's like in Midtown Manhattan in the basement. And I'm like, well, I don't, so it's through the state and everything. And I'm like, all right, I didn't really want to do guns that much. But if I could just show my driver's license and spend $50 or $25 to shoot a
Right.
little bit here and there, it was to my
Well,
fellow
that
people,
goes to
it
that
was fun.
That goes to that Charlie Kirk quote that you're talking about. Because in different parts of the country, that assessment of what he said, that a few gun deaths are just the price of the Second Amendment, and that's been, kind of haunting him after his death, and people have been drawing
I know.
the ironic and sad attachment to that. The New York has said no, actually, and
Mm.
Georgia said, I don't know, there's a bunch of woods out here. It's a coin toss whether it's a problem.
Yeah.
And it has to do entirely with rural area and urban area
Yeah.
because there's a
Yeah.
huge difference. And I try to get this across to like my liberal and progressive friends that they have to understand that people in a rural environment, like where I grew up in Kentucky, have an entirely different experience, both with guns for their function, hunting, and self-defense,
Hmm.
defending yourself against some stranger coming to your house, and the police. In the city, the assumption is even if the police are slow, they're there in 9 to 12 minutes. In
Right.
Peaksville, Kentucky, where I grew up, if the cops could get there in 2 hours, it was a miracle because we're out in
Fair.
the sticks.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a rocket ship 45-minute drive from the city as fast as you can go.
Yeah.
And that's if there's no other problems and nothing else happening at the time. So you're
Good
an
point.
hour and a half away, conceivably, from being able to reach somebody. Again, days of landlines being what they are, and a cop showing up. So you're in charge of security for your home, your person, and your family. And there's I've always joked that one of the reasons why rednecks need guns is because they know the neighborhood is full of rednecks. And
Mhm.
the reality is, your weird neighbor who gets drunk and starts shooting his shotgun at the moon every so often, and you're like, one of these days he's
Mm.
going to wander down this way. That's very different from being in an apartment and going, if my neighbor has a gun and they can't hit what they're shooting at, and be very good at it, even if they have an intruder and it's a reasonable use of force in that situation, they're going to shoot my cornflakes out of my hands because these walls are paper thin.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a different mentality. And
Right.
so many people kind of overlay their life experience, their lived experience, as a way of, it just automatically not understanding the reality of another person. Georgia doesn't care because most people are going to go out in the woods like Marjorie Taylor Greene and shoot a fucking Prius or something, right? Like, but in the
Right.
city, you're like, I
Bud
got
Light and so
somewhere to
on. Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
I
So,
got it. Yeah.
so Andrea, anything you want to add on the guns before we take a break? This is a good way. We did a whole huge chunk on Charlie Kirk and everything related to it. And we're going to shift gears back because now that the killer's been caught, we have to get back to the Epstein file. So we're going to come back
Hey.
and
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about that. So let's take a quick break. We're going to come back with more of what just happened right after this. And welcome back. Look, Andrea Jones-Rooy and Hal Sparks are here in my Zoom. I didn't expect that. Hey
We're
guys,
right
what's
here.
up?
Hi, how are you?
So we are now 235 days since Donald Trump was sworn in, and we still don't have the complete Epstein files.
That's right.
And
Mhm.
he's going to try to keep the Charlie Kirk thing in the news as much as possible. We know that he doesn't want to get back to this. But this very week, on Wednesday before the shooting in the Senate, Chuck Schumer actually got a vote on an amendment to compel the documents. Only 2 Republicans supported it. Right now in the House, the discharge petition has 4 out of 219 Republicans. So the cover-up continues because
Mhm.
Donald Trump wants the cover-up to continue because the GOP knows their base wants this file out.
Mhm.
So, Andrea, so what do you think now? I mean, there's something in here that Trump, right
Sure.
before Charlie Kirk was killed, like the day before, he goes, Epstein files are over. Again, he's done that many times. It's done. We're moving on.
I wish
You
I
know,
had that power in my life to stop talking about things I don't want to talk about. Be like, this is over, and have people actually listen, which a
wow.
lot of his people are, but I'm
You have
not
to storm
listening
out of the room then. You have
to
to
him.
storm out of the room.
I mean, exactly to your point. Wednesday morning, I think it was Wednesday, I was literally looking, with one eye covered at the lecherous, horrible PDF of the birthday book itself
Yeah,
that
remember
was on.
that? Oh my
Yeah.
God, we forgot
And I
about
was like, this
the
is going to be, how are you going to stop something like this? This is going to be everywhere. And then I got the Charlie Kirk notification. And I also forgot about the Epstein, the birthday book, and how absolutely disgusting it was, and
Mhm.
how many horrible references to sex and underage women there were in this book from all over the place. It's just there's much to unpack around that, but it is, boy, is it handy for Trump that he can focus on something else in the news cycle, and that's even more reason for him to do the standing upon rubble and pointing to the enemy within and all of that
Mhm.
stuff, because he knows that the minute we look away from how much we hate each other, a lot of his base and certainly most of the left are going to want to know more about the Epstein files. And in the meantime, we're continuing to see, as you said, the lawmakers in this country largely block our ability to see these sorts of things. And it's, of course, he's hiding. This is something that I think could actually really hurt him.
It does. It's interesting. I forgot all about the birthday book. I forgot about
Right?
the birthday. I really, not even kidding.
Did you
Objectively,
look at it?
it's
It's
so pushed
horrible.
out of my mind.
Yeah.
I wrote
Yeah.
about it. I covered it in the show. It's been pushed so out of my mind by everything involving Kirk has taken up everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, do you remember? I mean,
That's what it's
Al, what
supposed
was
to
your
do.
reaction? I
I
know.
mean, right. So yeah, absolutely correct. Like if you look at any of the book, it's obvious that everyone, maybe you could buy 3 people who
Right.
contributed letters were financially tied to him somehow, but everybody past that point, I mean, come on. Like there was and I got to say, my biggest problem in all of this in many ways is TMZ and Page Six, who
Mm.
chase down celebrities who were, getting divorced or sleeping around. And you're going to tell me they didn't know about Epstein, Weinstein, Bill Cosby, and Donald Trump during this frigging time? Get out of
Mm.
here. They
Mm.
skated right past those guys while they victimized woman after woman, girl after girl, destroyed families, obliterated people, and they're, and going, I think Brad's cheating. Like, get
Hmm.
away from me. Like, you
Mhm.
know, so what we will hear, and I think this is the next like domino that will needs to be flicked if it doesn't fall automatically, is Sarah Kellen, Leslie Groff, who
Yeah.
else? Adriana Ross, and Nadia Marcinkova. These are the four women who were of age when they started hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell and helping her procure girls
Mhm.
or arrange his schedule. Equally as guilty as Maxwell by the standards that Ghislaine Maxwell went to jail. And they know way more
Yeah.
about the latter year part, who was there, who was hanging out, than even she does, because they had their kind of like split away and back together kind of thing during that window. The biggest thing too, I think, that's coming out is Trump can't help himself, and he keeps screwing up the lie. They always say, like, don't make up a big lie because keeping all the moving parts is very difficult.
Right.
And Trump's never had to do it because people just took his word for it, like you were talking about, and just like that was it. Like, all right, well, he says it's a hoax, we're done. Whatever it
Mhm.
was. The minute you ask two questions past that, he has to start calling you names because he doesn't have an answer. And if he starts answering it, he comes up with he was stealing employees. Well, that statement alone, there have been like three what the hell moments. The big one being the memo,
Yeah.
the unsigned memo from Pam Bondi the weekend of the Texas floods, supposed to be under the radar. Even Trump was like, I think it's very disrespectful to even bring this up. We've got the
Yep, I
Texas
remember.
floods and stuff. Like he's like, this is the perfect window to hide this, and you're still asking about it. Damn, it didn't work. That's what that was. Maggots went crazy. And that memo, more than anything, it hangs around their neck like an albatross. They cannot shake being slapped in the face by Donald Trump that way. And it's just gotten worse. One of the other ones, obviously, the birthday book, it's a lie, it's a hoax, and then the whole thing comes out because they want to believe it about everybody else that's in it. Bill Clinton, Woody Allen, whoever else is in it. That's
Right.
all real, but
Right.
somehow they forged an entry by Donald Trump years ago when nobody gave a damn
Right.
about his political leanings, when he was arguably a Democrat, because he's always just been a power chaser. He doesn't have any ethics or morals. He doesn't care about. I mean, this is the most communist government we've ever had, buying stakes in Intel, buying stakes in Nvidia,
Yeah.
like Nippon Steel's deal with US Steel. Like, this is like, if the 80s Republicans would be just exploding with the Soviets are winning if they got wind of any of this stuff. It's amazing. So the next step will be these women either being questioned or chased down, or somebody's going to start knocking on their doors going, who are you? What did you do? Either on a personal level, which I don't recommend, or a press level, which is probably what's going to happen, because there's no way Pam Bondi and Cash Patel are going to send anybody down there.
No, definitely not. And Andrea, getting back to the quick point Andrea made that I thought was so important. When you look at that book and the drawings of sex and women, and even the one with the little girls from like 1983, and then the
Handing
massage in
balloons to them and
2003,
then getting,
right? Like they knew, Trump knew. They even did
Yeah.
a joke in the book, someone else, about Trump buying a depreciated woman
yeah.
from Jeffrey
Which was
Epstein.
my point about his whole. Hold on, but that was just my point about the whole thing where Trump felt like he could dodge this bullet because,
Yeah.
as a mama's boy, he's always liked women with big tits and all that kind of stuff. Like he's that kind of a human being. So the idea that underage prepubescent girls were his thing wasn't it. What he wanted was trained sexual slaves, effectively, that Epstein was in the business of creating. That's what these model wives were for everyone. Basically burn down their self-esteem, trap them in these like power marriages with a crappy prenup and basically a gun to their family's head in Eastern Europe. And that's what they mean by depreciated. She's been used and that kind of stuff, and she's 18 now, so who cares? Like that's Trump's. That's why he felt like he was safe from all this. Why he thought he could dry snitch on Epstein, which is exactly what that FBI informant crap was about.
That was interesting. And also, to me, Andre, watching the corporate media go to reporters going, what do you think? Oh, it's not his signature. You don't think it's his signature? No. Why don't you? I just don't. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Good.
This
Yeah.
like
Good
jumps,
talk.
one side or the other. What about asking, like, other questions like Donald Trump in 2024 put in writing, I was never on Epstein's plane.
Right.
Earlier this year, the DOJ releases flight logs. He was on it 8 times. And in Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, testimony by
Right.
the pilot, I saw Donald Trump on the plane. Why not follow up that way and ask about his proven lie that we
Right.
know about? Or the fact that a year before that birthday card, there's Trump talking to New York Magazine saying, Jeffrey Epstein's terrific.
Yeah.
He loves beautiful women on the younger side. You're like,
Just like I do. Yeah. No, it's,
they don't
I
ask
mean,
that question.
he's someone who, for the 10 godforsaken years that we have had to deal with him, longer, I guess, if you, depending on how you count it, that we've had to deal with him in the public eye and in the government, or in this level of political attention, he has somehow managed to weasel out of so many lies that we've just figured he says something, everyone realizes that's not the case, and he's just somehow off the hook. It happens again and again and again, and he somehow keeps weaseling out of it. And I am just both hoping and also uncharacteristically optimistic that he cannot weasel out of this, because it's too many people and there's too many aspects. There's the plane, there's the birthday book, there's the quotes, there's the photos, there's all the people that Hal just named, there's
Yeah.
all the people that the right wants to demonize, Bill Clinton and Woody Harrelson. And if any of them, all of them, seem like it's all horrible, right? Like,
Yep.
I'm not partisan in this. It seems like everyone is doing horrible things and everyone should pay the price. I'm hopeful that he can't actually weasel out of this. But Dean, you're right that we do need more follow-up. And while I'll allow some whitewashing and eulogizing around someone who was just killed, I don't think there's any reason to tread lightly around the Epstein files in this particular case.
No, if anything, it proves that, Virginia Jeffrey died after some weird, bizarre car accident / maybe beating, followed by a suicide, which, in any circumstance, in any other time, right-wingers would be attributing to a conspiracy. They'd be talking about her like she was Marilyn Monroe killed by the Kennedys.
That's right.
We all know this. By the way, Dean, I don't know if you either know about this or it just always slips by everyone, but there's that story in Maximum Golf, the New Yorker reprinted parts of it years ago, where Epstein flew on Trump's plane. And it was one of the many times that he flew on Trump's plane. So we know about the 7 or 10 times, now probably 12. By the end of it, we're going to find out anywhere there wasn't a name written, that was Trump. Like, he knew it stunk, so he just didn't want to be on the list because it violated his prenup to hang out with Epstein or something, with Marla or something. But there's this story that was in Maximum Golf. There's a guy following him around about how, his golf courses and that kind of stuff. And they're waiting for Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to show up, and they're late because they were in traffic. And there's this whole thing about how Trump's pacing on his plane going, come on, Jeffrey, don't be late for other people's planes. And he says that out loud in the plane to the reporter who's sitting there, not to Jeffrey when he shows up. He won't say it to his face in typical "you're fired if the producers say so" Apprentice style. And then who's with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell? An underage girl, a girl of indeterminate age that nobody has her name, not at all, not listed in Ghislaine's stuff. Her name is not listed in there, and not on the Trump flight logs, which begs the question: where are the Trump flight logs for all of his flights? Because I got to tell you, as many skeevy people as were on Epstein's plane, Epstein was on Trump's plane probably equally as much, if not more. Anytime his plane was being serviced or not in circulation, or he was training a new pilot, guess whose plane he was deadheading on every time? Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I didn't even know about that. I'm going to check it out here. So we only got a couple minutes left. By the way, I'll ask you both, but Spinal Tap, the sequel coming out. I know Hal is a guy named musician. Oh, you've seen it?
No, I mean, I just them. Like
the first
I've seen
one,
huge chunks of it.
I can't believe it's from 1984. That's because it's on cable and you see it and it doesn't seem. Now I see it. So the new one is it's a lampooning. Obviously, it's a parody of the first one, which was a mock documentary about heavy metal. So will you go see it? I mean, Andre, did you see the first one? And is it something you'd see?
I didn't. I feel like every time we talk about movies, I have to reveal that I haven't seen it. And like I think the last time we talked about this was the John Wick. I haven't seen those. I'm just completely out of touch with reality in terms of pop culture.
So you must, because it, although Waiting for Guffman, all those movies, those are all predicated on the very principle that you could make a movie like this. The songs themselves, while ironically hilarious and terrific and You know, there are so many jokes that we take for granted that are in the American comedic lexicon. You
Ah,
know, these go to 11, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Like that's from them. You know,
that's
they're
cool.
yeah. It's just one louder. You know, like that. Those parts, and there's such a thin line between stupid and clever.
Right.
Right. That's from that.
Ah,
Yeah. Their drummer dies, and they go, "Well, how did he die?" And they're like, "Well, the police thought best leave it unsolved," you know. And he goes, there was no way to tell. He actually choked on vomit, but there was no way of telling whose vomit it
that's
was
funny.
because you can't really dust for vomit, which I
Yeah.
like that as an
That's funny
improv
stuff.
line. You can't really dust for vomit has just haunted the back of my head
Yeah.
as a young comedian then going through Second City and going, will I ever say something off the top of my dome that's as fitting to the moment and as funny and absurd and perfect as that very line, you know? And so,
So
yeah, you have to see it.
it's
You
out this
Okay.
must.
weekend. Rob
All right.
Reiner directing it. He's in it.
You gonna go see it,
Yes.
Dean?
I don't know if
Yes.
I'm going to see it. I don't know if I'm going to see it
Okay.
in the theaters, but I'm going to see it. But all right, before we run out of time, I want both of you to have a chance to plug because you guys are great and I want people to follow your work. Andre, let's start with you.
Sure. So I'm on Twitter. No, I'm not. I'm on Instagram. That's what it is. At
Hmm.
Jones-Rooy, JONESROOY. And my podcast is Behind the Data, behindthedatashow.com, where we look at the data behind the things that are in the news. So crime data, political polls back in the day, and we're doing a series right now on jobs data, all the data that Trump
Hmm.
has been accused of being fussed with and funny business. So we have couple close talks with a New York Times reporter and a former head of the BLS on the show. So it's a good way to get past all the nonsense and understand what's going on.
And
And
Hal, what?
that's the Bureau of Labor Statistics,
That's right.
not Black Label Society, which is Ozzy's guitar player Zach Wild's band.
That's
Ah,
That's
right.
one of
That
my
will be a
favorite.
follow-up
or,
episode.
or
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
WBLS
I
radio.
want to see you
Nobody knows.
interview a Viking
Yeah.
who can do triads.
Yeah.
Yeah, so infotainmentwars.com will take everybody to my YouTube page where they can sign up. But I go to I live stream on Instagram, on Substack, on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, Rumble, and
What is Rumble?
Kick. Rumble's
Wow.
the right wing thing. I just do it in
Yeah.
case anybody
Oh,
stumbles
good for
across
you.
my channel. You can do it for free. So I was like, why not annoy them? So
All right.
occasionally they'll stumble in and start screaming in a chat room that they're alone in,
Fine.
but I don't care. And
Yeah.
anywhere it doesn't cost you anything to stream that
Yeah.
isn't Stormfront,
Yeah.
I'll pop my show up. And then of course, the last Friday of every month, I'm at Flappers in Burbank doing an hour of improvised stand-up. I
Cool.
don't prep for it at all. And then, of course, on the 23rd, Ultimate Jam Night at the Whiskey a Go Go, we will have a special Ozzy tribute.
Ah,
I'll be singing and playing guitar, and we got a bunch of stars and celebs coming out to pay tribute to him. And
That's
I
great.
sent you the link for the New
I
York
saw that.
Magazine story
I wish I
about.
was in LA just to see that show, sincerely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys have both been great. I really appreciate you. Have a great weekend. We'll be back with more of the show after this.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Dean.
guys. You were great. That was
Thanks.
really good. And the Whiskey A Go Go show sounds great. The Osby,
Yeah, that's awesome.
really, if I
Yeah,
lived in I would go. So,
Same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna get Jakey Lee, his guitar player for like "Shot in the Dark" and those songs, big in the '80s. I think he's gonna come and play with us. We've got a couple of his drummers. We've got
Cool.
it's a good group of
that's
people.
great, man. Well, I wish you the best, sir. Have a great
Yeah.
weekend, guys.